Let's discuss kerning and tracking, two very related but distinctly different ways of adjusting the space between your characters. So what's the difference? Well, it's this. I'm going to begin with tracking, and I'm going to select a paragraph of text. Now, if you want to adjust the space between these characters, I can use this keyboard shortcut to track, Option or Alt, and the left arrow. And that's going to reduce the space between the characters, including the word spaces. That value is going to appear right there on the control panel. You can apply tracking by choosing one of these predetermined amounts or just by typing in the value in this field. Now, if on the other hand I want to adjust the space between a pair of characters, then that's kerning. And there's the essential difference, because both kerning and tracking use the same keyboard shortcuts. The difference is, when you have a range of text selected, you are tracking. When you have your cursor inserted between a pair of characters, you are kerning. And you would only want to apply manual kerning, as I'm about to do here, when you're working with display type. It's not relevant when applied to body type, although there is a different type of kerning, and that's auto kerning, which is applied to all of our text. But if I wanted to manually adjust the space between these two characters, first of all, I'd want to get in nice and close. This is a letter combination that I think would benefit from a little bit of kerning, and that's to do with the letter shapes. We have a curved character, the C, which is essentially curving away from the vertical side of the N. So it looks like there's a little bit more space. And to apply the kerning, same keyboard shortcut, Option or Alt, and the left arrow. And that's just going to bring those characters to the right of the cursor, slightly over to the left, tightening up that space, with the goal of making it look like the space between all of the characters is uniform. So that's the difference between kerning and tracking. So when might you want to manually kern your type? Let's use a few examples. Sometimes when you use a drop cap, depending on the character that you're using, you may find that you have a collision with the characters that come after, as you see right here. To fix this, I'm going to double click to insert my cursor between the drop cap and the letters that follow, and then press Option or Alt and the right arrow to increase the space. Now, the first time you do that, sometimes rather than the space getting looser, it actually jumps all the way over to the left and gets tighter. That's just the way it is. It just happened. So I'm going to continue to press Option or Alt and the right arrow. Now, since I want to move in large increments, I'm also going to throw in the Command or Control key to that combination. And now I let go of the Command or Control key just to move in smaller increments until I get to about there. Now we can see that when we are applying kerning in this sort of instance, it's moving not just one line, but however many lines are affected by the drop cap. Now I'm going to move to another example, and I have here a word that is going to be problematic when we view it at larger sizes. Now at this text size, we don't need to do anything about it. We're just going to leave it as it is. But if I decide that we want to work with this type significantly larger, I'm going to copy the text frame, and I'm going to scale it up by holding Command and Shift, or Control and Shift, and dragging out to the right like so. So what we have here is an A leaning away from the diagonal on the W. And then we have the same sort of thing but mirrored with the A and the V. And then we have the angle of the V up against the straight-sided character, the I. And then the straight-sided edge of the N up against the curve of the G. So a number of issues that we have here. This is a problematic word to be working with at display sizes. So I'm going to insert my cursor between these two characters, and incidentally, just before I do that, it's an old trick that if you want to better see where the kerning problems are in your document, print out the page and look at it upside down and squint. Now obviously I can't do that here for you, but you could rotate the spread, and arguably if we squint out that, perhaps we can more clearly see where the spacing looks a little bit uneven. I think especially between the G and the N, and it looks like we have more space between the N and the I than between the I and the V, and then a bit more space there. So I'm going to now clear the rotation and start doing some kerning. I'm going to hit Command K to open my preferences and change my kerning unit to 1. I'm now going to press Option and Alt and my left arrow, tightening up the space, and then pressing my right arrow to move to the next letter pair. I'll do a bit more there, move to the next letter pair. Well, here I might even add a little space and then reduce the space a little bit there and a bit there. Now let's just compare that with how it would look without the manual kerning. So I am just going to select this text and copy it. Then I'm going to restore it to the way it was by coming up here and putting it back to metrics. So the one on the top is my manually kerned example, and the one beneath is just the auto kerning alone. One other example, and that is working with script typefaces. Script typefaces can suffer at the hands of kerning, auto kerning, and manual kerning. This being a script typeface, it's very important that the letters actually connect with each other the way they would look if they were handwritten. If we look at the A and the N right there, that is not what we want to happen at all. So with a script font, you need to look out for places where letters should join. And if they don't, then you'll have to come in and apply some manual kerning to make sure that they do. So there we have 3 examples of when you might want to kern: to fix character collision with a drop cap, when working with script typefaces, and when working with headline size type, especially type that presents you with problematic letter pairs.